How to knit pinecone stitch. Pinecone is a beautiful stitch that you can use from anything from a blanket. So in this example, we have a blanket to a cardigan, and this is a sleeve in the cardigan where this pattern is done in the round. So here we have repeats done with, it's a 10 stitch by 10 row repeat. And you can kind of see the little eyelets are kind of the same. So for rows 1, 5, and 7, they're the same. And for row 3, they are in a slightly different position. So here we have a swatch, and we're going to knit this swatch in this video tutorial. The cast on is 21 stitches. We start by just knitting 3 stitches, and this is simply to make the math work for this swatch. And now we start the pine cone pattern. Knit 2 together, yarn over. This is what's going to create that eyelet. Knit. This is the middle of the pine cone. Yarn over and another decrease. But this time we're doing it with slip, knit, PSSO. So you slip a stitch, you knit one, and you pass slip stitch over. And this is, you can kind of see, this is where we're at. We're just doing that first row of the pine cone, the first row of the eyelet. And we have another pine cone coming up. First we knit the 5 stitches, so the pine cones are separated by 5 stitches. And we have the second pine cone. So knit 2 together, yarn over, knit, yarn over, slip, knit, PSSO. You can do it with your fingers or with a knitting needle. And we finish the row with just regular knit stitches. All of the even numbered rows are just purl rows. So basically it's just a regular purl. If you're knitting in the round, then your the wrong side rows are rounds rather are knit rounds. So here, this is the wrong side, is all just purl. So you just purl to the end of the row. Now we are ready to do a row 3 in the pinecone stitch. So we just did the row 1. Row 3 is those eyelets are happening at a different location. So we need 2 stitches just to get to the right place. So in this case, we do the decrease, knit 2 together, we do a yarn over, and then we knit 3 stitches. This is going to place those eyelets in a different position. So decrease, and for row 3 of the pine cone stitch, your pine cones are separated with 3 stitches as opposed to 5 as we had in the previous row. So now again, you have your middle, so we'll be knitting 3 stitches in the middle. To start the pine cone, you do knit 2 together, yarn over, and then you knit 3 stitches in the middle, yarn over, another decrease, slip, knit, PSSO, and finish off this row with just some knit stitches. and the wrong side is just a purl row. So you can kind of see the pattern showing. So that was our first and third row, and you can see that the row 5 and row 7 are actually the same as row 1. So knit 3 stitches, and you see kind of where your middle is. If you know where your middle is, you almost don't even need to look at the pattern because it's going to be always in the same place. So knit 2 together, then yarn over, and you can see that that middle of the pine cone is in the same place. This is another way you can kind of check yourself that you didn't make a mistake. We separate the 2 pine cones with 5 stitches. And here we're ready to do the second pine cone. So knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, slip, knit, PSSO. And finish off the row with some knit stitches. And the wrong side row again is just a purl row. So you see how the eyelets in row 1 and row 5 align. They're in the same location. And row 7 is the same as row 5 and row 1. So here we're just repeating, and you see how you can kind of follow that middle. It's very important to count your stitches after every row. And I can't stress it enough. It's so easy to make a mistake. The most common mistake I've made with this pattern is I sometimes forget to do yarn overs. So if you forget to do a yarn over, you're gonna have you're not gonna have the right number of stitches. You can fix it when you're doing your wrong side rows or rounds. So you can just pick up the yarn and kind of put that yarn over back. So if you can figure out how to do it, you don't really have to go back, but or you have to undo the row. So it's super important to count your stitches. So here we just finished our 10 row repeat, and we have the pine cones. So you see how for the next repeat, the pine cone happens kind of in the middle there. So, this is just to make the pattern more interesting. But the principle is the same. So to get the numbers work for this small swatch, here we have kind of half a pine cone on the sides with the 1 full pine cone in the middle. So we're ready to do the pine cone. So knit 2 together, yarn over, knit, This is the middle of the pine cone. Yarn over, slip, knit, BSSO. And when you slip the stitches, so you can slip purlwise or knitwise. For this pattern, it honestly doesn't matter. So I'm doing it knitwise. I'm sorry, purlwise. I don't believe it matters for this pattern. So this is why it doesn't specify. If you're working on some other pattern where it tells you whether they want you to do knitwise or purlwise, follow the pattern. Here it doesn't matter. So you can clearly see the beginning of that second pine cone row. Again, a 10 row pattern. 10 row repeat. So this is row 3, which means the pine cones are separated with 3 stitches. So you can clearly see the middle, and now for row 3 we knit 3 stitches in the middle. So yarn over, knit 3 stitches, yarn over, slip, knit, BSSO, and finish the row with half of a pinecone stitch. So knit 2 together, yarn over, knit, knit. So it's not a full pinecone, it's half. And we are going to do row 5, which is the same as row 1, to have the eyelets aligned. So they happen to be in the same place again for rows 1, 5, and 7. And the row 3 is the one that's different. This really is such a beautiful stitch, and it works with so many different yarns. In this example, this is our 100% merino wool dream yarn. It's worsted weight. We also have some patterns with this stitch using summer yarn, which is a bulky weight, 100% cotton. So pretty much, you know, any weight looks amazing with this stitch. And here we just have the one last pine cone row, row 7. Row 9 is just a knit row. So you have a kind of these bands of pine cones separated with just a knit row. On the right side, of course, followed with a purl row on the wrong side if you're knitting flat, or a knit round if you're knitting in the round, for example, if you're making sleeves in the cardigan. In terms of how many stitches to cast on, if you're knitting flat, the number of stitches needs to be divisible by 10 plus 1. If you're knitting in the round, it's just divisible by 10. So it's a 10 stitch pattern. You do need to add that extra stitch to make it work when you're knitting flat.